Hello again, Irish fans, and welcome to the first 2020 edition of the Brian Kelly Show. It is a very different show from the shows we have done in the past, which have always had a live audience of some kind, but COVID-19 has dictated that we use the technology of Zoom this year, a technology, Coach, I know you have become very familiar with.
We've done a few of these. I think it started back in March, where I didn't even know what Zoom was. I know very well what Zoom is now, and it's the way that we communicate. It's the way that we can still bring a great show to so many Notre Dame fans and our followers.
Let's start with the impact Saturday's win over Duke has had on your team this week as they get ready for South Florida.
Well, first of all, the realization that we did, in fact, play. I think that there were so many days leading up to this game that there was the uncertainty. Are we going to get to this first game? Will we actually play? So now that we've put that behind us, we can really now focus strictly on our craft and getting better as a football team, getting better as individuals, and so that's huge, getting over that hurdle and really focusing in on the season.
We will break down the Duke game in our next segment, but we do have some other items to discuss. First, one of the reasons your team has done such a great job dealing with COVID-19 is the team's leadership. And last week, the players elected 5 outstanding players to serve as your captains this year.
Yeah, I will say this, that in my time here, 11 years, we've had great leaders and great captains and guys that have been captains for more than one year. And this year, again, is no different. We have 2. And Robert Hainsey and Ian Book are returning captains. And both of them are deserving of that. But we have 3 new captains as well. And they garnered a lot of votes and are well respected. And that's Sean Crawford, who is back again, who's overcome a lot of adversity to get this opportunity to be a captain for us. Ade Ogundenji is one of our favorites. He plays with such great energy and passion at the defensive end position. I think everybody's excited about him being a leader for us. And Dalen Hayes, who has been, again, another young man that his season was cut short last year, has come back with a vengeance in terms of wanting to really show himself on the football field. And everybody knows about how articulate he's been in these troubled times with, his social background in terms of social activism and racism and Black Lives Matters. He's been a great carrier of the messaging for our team. And so he's been well respected by all of his peers.
There was one other item of note that was announced during the Duke game. Your contract has been extended through the 2024 season. I know that was a long process, and a lot of it involves upgrades for the program. And of course, in recruiting, that's where this is really, really important. Everybody you're talking to knows you are going to be here for the next 4 years.
Yeah, look, contracts are contracts. It's just an honor to have the opportunity to continue to lead this storied program. And it really is simply about providing, the leadership for this program for the foreseeable future. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page with Father Jenkins' leadership. He's going to be here. I wanted to see that he was here and that our athletic director. So we're all going to be here leading in the same fashion and providing the same kind of messaging in recruiting the student athletes here to Notre Dame.
Brian, thank you. Coach and I will break down the Duke game right after this timeout on the Brian Kelly Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. It's time now for our game breakdown, brought to you by Canon. Brian, what are you most pleased with from your opening win?
Well, there's a number of things. First and foremost, we played a lot of players, and in an opener where you haven't played since December of 2019, the speed of the game is so important to get a lot of players in, and we did that on the offensive side of the ball. I could go through all the names. We know them already, from Kyron Williams to Joe Wilkins to Mike Mayer, all of those guys on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, the ability to play 11 defensive linemen, a number of different players in the back end, 4 linebackers. So getting all of that work is so very important to the development of your football team and to get a win against a Power 5 opponent. And a team like Duke that is a very well-coached football team and made things difficult for us in the first half.
I often follow up with that question with what things were you not pleased with, but I think I have a better way to ask it this year. What areas will you focus on in practice this week?
Yeah, it's always about, where can you get better, right? I mean, what things did you learn about your football team that's going to allow you to prepare on, Tuesday when you get back out on the practice field? And I think from a defensive standpoint, probably the attention to detail. There's some things there that we probably weren't as disciplined as we needed to be. Some of the big plays that we gave up are uncharacteristic for us on the defensive side of the ball. We did not give up those big plays last year. We've got a little third down rub route that turns into a 55-yard play. That can't happen. And so from a defensive standpoint, I think that attention to detail has got to really show up on Tuesday. From an offensive standpoint, I mean, there's a lot of inexperience on that side of the ball that got a lot of that experience. We're going to have to be consistent now and making sure that we stay with some things that are giving our guys a similar look week in, week. We can't just keep advancing the playbook to a level where everything is new for our group. We got to build some consistency in terms of what we're doing. We did a lot of outside zone. We were a lot of inside, outside zone running. That's going to be a little bit more of our flavor, and I think we just got to continue to work to get better at that.
You, of course, got a lot of questions about the fact you got off to a slow start offensively against Duke, but I think the factors you just mentioned were a large part of the reason for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly, there's going to be some rust, but there were some execution issues on the offensive side of the ball. And it was, a little bit different each time, right? It was a misprotection here. It was a misread on a run where, you've got some inexperience at the running back position. So a lot of that was growing pains, and a lot of that was correctable, things that could happen really as the game unfolded. They got a chance to see things again from a second and third time. Kind of like in baseball, right? That second or third at bat, they kind of knew what was coming at them, and they got some better swings at it. And you saw some improvement with that offensive team in terms of some of the younger, inexperienced players.
You told me you expected the Duke offense to challenge you, and they did right from the start, but your defense was up to that challenge.
Yeah, we were. I mean, look, their passing game is so much better than it was last year when we played them. They were really struggling to throw the football last year. This year, obviously, with Bryce, they are a much better team when it comes to throwing the football. But he's very sore today, too. I mean, he took a lot of hits. We got to the quarterback. We harassed him. And, he was under 55% throwing the football. So if you're, obviously hitting the quarterback quite a bit, putting him under duress, which we were, obviously those are things that you want to continue to work on.
I thought one of the biggest plays in the game for you came after Duke hit that big pass play down to the 8-yard line in the first quarter, and Kurt Heinisch then came up with the big tackle for loss.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I would say, Jack, you're right. I mean, I think the other thing we did better than we did last year, much more, I think, scrappy in the red zone this game, in the sense that we kept them off the scoreboard in terms of touchdowns. Certainly they kicked some field goals, but we were resilient down there. And I think that's what we have to continue to do. Now, we can't give up the big plays, as I mentioned to you earlier, but I think we had some guys step up and make some plays down there and really scrapped hard in the red zone and keeping them out of the end zone.
And another of those guys who stepped up to make big plays, especially early, was Isaiah Foskey.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, we're so blessed that we've got the kind of depth that when you look at our depth chart, it looks like he's third string. But he's actually a very, very fine player. I think everybody knows that. And to have that kind of depth with Isaiah Foskey playing in the rotation, just tells you a little bit about, what we can be defensively when we get our attention to detail and focus down to where it needs to be.
Now, you were still struggling on offense early in the second quarter. It's 4th and 8 on your own 21, and you call for a fake punt.
Yeah, this had been something that we had scouted out and felt really comfortable with it, especially in that part of the field. It was clearly going to be there. Now you got to run and you got to find your way to it. And Jay's a very good athlete. He was a quarterback in high school. We felt very comfortable with the ball in his hands and did a really good job. And it gave us obviously some momentum that we were lacking at that time, and gave us the opportunity to go down and score a touchdown.
You are down 3-0 at that point in the game, though. It is deep in your territory. It's kind of a gutsy call.
Yeah, obviously those are measured calls, right? You're looking at time and place, and you're thinking that in this instance, if we don't make it, our defense is going to be strong enough that let's keep them out of the end zone. If they kick a field goal here and make it 6-0, we're going to put more than 6 points on the board.
On the very next play after the fake punt, a nice catch by freshman tight end Michael Mayer, who looks like he's going to be a very good tight end for your team.
Yeah, he's going to be a really nice player for us. And it's just a matter of him maturing and, getting more involved in our offense. And we've got so many really good tight ends. And so he's in the long line of many great tight ends that have come through the ranks here at Notre Dame. So really, really excited about where he's going to be this year. I mean, it's just he needs some more time, more reps, but he made a couple of nice, really big plays for us in this game against Duke.
Now, I'm hearing that his nickname on the team is Baby Gronk. Pretty high praise. Who came up with that?
Well, I don't know who exactly came up with it, but if you take the big third down conversion where he broke through the tackle, I can see where it came from. But he's a very talented young man, and I think he's well respected by everybody.
Now, the other big play on the drive was a 20-yard catch and run by Jafar Armstrong to set up the 1-yard TD by Kyron Williams.
Yeah, I really liked the play. I mean, it was a really good call. They had been very aggressive on that down, playing some man. We got everybody. It kind of was like a clear out, if you will, in basketball. We cleared that side of the field out of there. We got a great block by Javon McKinley down the field, and Jafar took it pretty much untouched all the way down the goal line, and then finished the run off with a real physical lowering of the pads at the end of the run. So really nice play call, well conceived, and a great finish of the run by Jafar.
Now that gave you a 7-3 lead. You're up 10-6 early in the third quarter when Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah comes up with a huge play, forcing a Chase Bryce fumble that Sean Crawford recovers on the Notre Dame 41.
Yeah, big play, obviously, in that instance right there. Again, we're looking for a big play in that situation. And that's where, this defense had been big for us over the last 3 years under Clark Lee, is getting that big play. And he gets it. In this third year of Clark's defense, you can start to see that kind of penchant from making big plays at the right time. And great call here to get Jeremiah in the pressure and gets a big play for us and a huge turnover.
And what a game Jeremiah had. He was all over the field, recording a game-high 9 tackles with a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and that forced fumble.
That's the kind of player he is. And he's been doing it for us the last few years. I think you see him on special teams. He shows up with a great opening tackle on the kickoff that kind of sets the tone. Again, he's a guy that continues to get better. He's still got some work to do in his game. He knows that from a consistency standpoint, but boy, he's a guy that we love having on our team.
Now, you added the rover position to your defense 3 years ago, and it really seems to be a great fit for the kind of athletes that you recruit at Notre Dame.
Well, there's no doubt it's a hybrid position. Strong side linebacker, nickel. It's one that teams kind of have a special designation for this position because they do play in space. We've had some great ones. Jalen Smith has played this position. We've had James Onawalu play this position. We have some really good NFL players that have played this position. And it's one where it takes somebody that can play some man-to-man coverage, and you don't want to take him off the field. He can pass rush. He can do a lot of different things.
Your offense gets into a really good rhythm after the turnover, something they struggled with in the first half. What adjustments did you make at halftime?
Well, I think, if you look at it in the first half, we had, I think, about 35 yards rushing, and we finished with about 165. So the first thing was to get into some outside zone runs that we showed a little bit more patience with. I think our backs were starting to see it a little bit better. And I think just consistency, right? We didn't panic. We didn't go away from the run. We kept running the football. And as I talked to the offensive staff at halftime, is like, listen, we're going to continue to run the football, continue to be who we are. Let's not obviously, abandon what we want to be. And I think that patience was well served, because we then started to control the line of scrimmage. And once we were able to get the line of scrimmage, we were able to do the kind of things we needed to win the ball game.
Those adjustments showed up on this drive that ended with a 26-yard touchdown run by Kyron Williams, his second touchdown of the day.
Yeah, obviously, short yardage situation where he's able to bounce it outside. And we got, again, another really good block on the perimeter by McKinley, and he's able to walk in the end zone. So, again, this is about, the consistency of running the football, being physical up front, and then finally exerting your will. I mean, again, if you abandon the run game at this point, then who knows what's going to happen. The strength of this defense was at their cornerback position. They had two outstanding corners, as I said, leading into this game, probably the two best corners that we're going to see all year. There might be some others that can rival them, but these two were outstanding, and they're edge players. So being physical, continue to run the football at them, and it started to show itself in the second half.
You made no secret heading into the game that Williams had emerged as the number one running back, but wow. After rushing for just 26 yards all of last season, he earned the game ball by rushing for 112 yards while racking up 93 receiving yards, the first Notre Dame player to do that in 25 years.
Yeah, and I think he's got an incredible long way to go in terms of his development. And I'm happy for him. I know, our entire team is happy for the success that he had, but I think he'll tell you that he's got a lot of growth ahead of him, and it was a great start for him. He's going to attribute a lot of this to the offensive line and those people around him that gave him this opportunity. But it's going to be nice to see his growth over the course of this year.
Duke would score again, but you put the game away with a 15-play, 83-yard drive that included two catches by Avery Davis, the 17-yard reception for the touchdown. I know you feel good for Avery, a senior who has done everything you have asked him to do during his years at Notre Dame.
Yeah, good for Avery, right? He started as a quarterback. We moved him around a little bit. He was on defense, running back, and really trying to find a place for him where he could contribute. And boy, did he contribute on Saturday. One-on-one coverage, goes up and takes a 50-50 ball away, and then obviously a big third down conversion for us as well. And, we knew he was capable of making big plays. He did as a high schooler, leading his 5A team in Texas, the state championship. So he's got that pedigree. And when the game's on the line, he's a guy you want to look for.
Finally, the biggest spotlight on Notre Dame football always focuses on you and your quarterback. Not only does Ian Book carry leadership responsibilities for the offense, he carries big expectations. So how do you evaluate his play in game one?
Well, I think, anytime you talk about your quarterback, you want to talk about winning, and Ian Book wins. So at the end of the day, the guy finds a way to win. Can he play better? Yes. Can I coach better? Yes, we all can. And so I think we evaluate ourselves critically here in this building. But we also look at the fact that winning is what the byproduct is, and we want to win football games. So we're going to get back at it this week. We're going to look at the things that we need to get better at, and we're certainly going to do that. And I think when you talk about Ian Book, the nice part about it is he's a winner.
Thanks, Coach. Coming up, we'll hear from one of the most inspirational players on this year's Irish roster, starting strong safety, Shaun Crawford. Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Show. Right now, I would like to introduce all of you to one of the newest members of our Fighting Irish Media team, our Associate Director of Social Media and Student Athlete Branding, Sydney Sims. Many of you who are regular consumers of our social media content are already familiar with Sydney's fine work throughout fall football camp on Camp Chronicles with Sydney Sims. Each week here on the Brian Kelly Show, Sydney will sit down with a member of the Irish squad for a feature we call Irishography. This week's guest is starting strong safety Shawn Crawford.
Shawn, your first 2 years, you faced back-to-back injuries your freshman and sophomore year, making you unable to play those 2 years. Describe that time frame in your life.
I guess you could say I'm no stranger to adversity. Each and every day, I just try to go out and just make the most of each moment. You reset your mentality to attack whatever is in front of you again.
Freshman cornerback Shawn Crawford will miss the 2015 season with a torn ACL.
Looks like tragedy struck again for Crawford after a torn Achilles.
It's the third season-ending injury in Crawford's 4 years at Notre Dame.
You get on the field your junior year, you have an impressive season, things are looking on the up and up, and then you get re-injured early into your senior year. How was your mindset different this go-around versus when you're a freshman and sophomore year?
I didn't know how I was going to get through it the second time. I just relied heavily on my faith.
What wisdom can you share to the younger guys about overcoming adversity, whether it be injury or just anything in general?
Keep pushing, keep moving forward. Every day is not going to be your best day. Make the bad days good and make the good days great. And so that's just the motto that I live by. Luckily, I had a great support system with my teammates, coaches, my family, close friends. They never let me settle. They never let me put my head down. They never let me think about giving up. They were always pushing me. They were always motivating me.
Safety drops back. The pressure comes from the edge. The pass is underthrown underneath, and it is intercepted. And it's Shawn Crawford.
Your journey has led you to recently being named a captain. What does that mean to you? Being
named captain was like a relief for me, just because it finally felt like I was rewarded the respect, felt like all the hard work that I went through, all the struggles, all the adversity that I went through, it paid off. You were granted a 6th year with the team, and it seems like all of a sudden chaos ensues with coronavirus, racial and social injustice. How have you handled the challenges of just the uncertainty individually as well as with your teammates? Making known that I'm giving it my all, that I'm pushing, that I'm working hard, because today might be my last time I put on a Notre Dame uniform. With all the adversity going on this year already, we weren't guaranteed a season. We're not guaranteed week 2. To cherish each moment and through adversity just to keep going, because things do get better on the other side.
Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. Folks, I'm really excited about our next guest. He is going to be the focal point of a new segment we are adding to the Brian Kelly Show this year that we call The Look Ahead. Each week, Notre Dame Director of Scouting Bill Reese will join us to give us an in-depth look at Notre Dame's next opponent and some insight into how the Irish are getting ready for the game. Bill is a football lifer and has been involved in college and professional football as a coach, scout, and administrator for 44 years. It would take this entire segment to list all the jobs Bill has had during his football career, but among the highlights are the 15 years he spent as a coach and recruiting coordinator at UCLA under legendary head coach Terry Donahue, and the 16 years he spent working for 4 different NFL teams, including his 4-year stint as director of college scouting for the Bears between 1997 and 2001. And yes, Bill is Notre Dame offensive coordinator Tom Reese's dad. Bill, welcome to the Brian Kelly Show.
Jack, thanks. I'm happy to be a part of this segment.
Now, in some ways, director of scouting is self-explanatory, but in other ways it isn't. It's a pretty wide-ranging job. So give us a brief outline of what your job entails at Notre Dame.
Well, during this time of the year with the season upon us, I do all of the advanced scouting of the personnel of our upcoming opponent. So that'll include the offense, the defense, a little bit of analytics will get involved. So that goes to the coaches, and it's usually done on Sunday night. And then I'll be a week ahead. I'll get involved, like this week, I'll be on Wake Forest. and finishing them up, and then we'll watch their Saturday game and complete the process on Sunday night.
Another part of your job, I know, is you study the film, the video of potential high school recruits. So you're very familiar with Kyron Williams. I know you had high expectations for him, but did you expect him to put up the kinds of numbers he did in his first start Saturday to earn ACC Running Back of the Week honors?
Well, we were all very excited with Kyron's performance. Coach Kelly had alluded to the fact last week that he had had a great camp, had really emerged, and it carried over into the game on Saturday. And when you watched him play in high school, you saw those same traits. You saw competitiveness. You saw tremendous vision, great hands. The other thing about Kyron was in high school, he was an excellent defensive back, very explosive. So his all-around competitiveness you saw on Saturday, and you're going to see on Saturdays in the future, because he's got a very bright future here at Notre Dame.
Okay, a very interesting matchup for Notre Dame this weekend. The 1-0 South Florida Bulls are coached by Jeff Scott, who spent the previous 5 years as Clemson's co-offensive coordinator. And Scott's offensive coordinator for the Bulls is none other than Charlie Weiss Jr. So, Bill, what kind of an offense will the Irish have to stop on Saturday?
Well, they'll be an up-tempo offense, and they went for over 400 yards last week against the Citadel. They did have a number of offensive players unavailable to them. Whether or not they will be back this week or not, we probably won't know until Saturday morning. But they did a really good job week one running the offense. They returned last year's starting quarterback in Jordan McLeod, and another quarterback who was a grad transfer, Noah Johnson, also played. And both guys really did a good job in the offense. They were very comfortable running their RPOs, their option attack, and so forth. So that is really where they were at quarterback. One wild card is a player by the name of Cade Fortin, who was not available to them on Saturday. He is more of a pocket passer. He played at the University of North Carolina as a true freshman, had to sit out last year. So his availability is uncertain, but if he is available, I'm sure he'll be in the mix. They have two real interesting, what I would call scat backs in the backfield. Kelly Joyner and Johnny Ford. They're not big, but they're very explosive, very quick. They do a great job in the open field. They can catch it. They can make you miss. They provided a lot of big plays for him last Saturday night. And they do return their second, third, and fourth leading receivers from a year ago. So they're capable out at wide receiver. But the big question for them will be, will all of their offensive linemen be available on Saturday?
Now, Jeff Scott's first hire at South Florida when he took the job last December was defensive coordinator Glenn Spencer, a veteran of 3 decades in college coaching. Spencer spent last year as the defensive coordinator at Florida Atlantic under Lane Kiffin and helped the Owls win the Conference USA Championship. So what kind of defense will the Irish face on Saturday, Bill?
Well, Glenn Spencer's an excellent football coach. And like you said, he's been around, and everywhere he's been successful. The one tricky thing is defensively, they played an option offense last week in the Citadel. We probably won't see the same structure that they played against the Citadel this week. So the good news is there is film on how he has played in the past, and we've been able to look at that as an offensive staff. They do have a number of players that will fit into an even or an odd front. They have a lot of good versatility with their players. In Florida, you're going to have speed, and their defense can run well. So those are the things that, we're going to kind of, hone in on. They do have, some real good active defensive linemen, quick and explosive. They do have a couple of guys that are those 2 gap run defenders too. So they can go quick and move and movement oriented, or they can go big and physical. Probably their best position group is going to be at linebacker. Greer, Boyles, and Mims are three exceptional players, very productive. They can play on all three downs. They don't have to come out. Boyles in particular does a great job of coming off the edge and rushing the passer. Greer is a very good blitzer, and Mims is good in coverage. So they've got a real good nucleus there at linebacker. And the secondary, USF has always had good secondary players, and this year is no different. They have two experienced big corners, and a kid by the name of Sales, who's also their punt returner, is a transfer from North Carolina that really has NFL ability for them. They've got three good safeties that they'll rotate in and out. So in the back end, they got a good combination of skill, experience, and size.
You know, so many times over the years, Bill, and I think you've even mentioned this to me on a couple of occasions, coaches have told me that the biggest improvement any team makes is between game 1 and game 2, in part because even if you're playing ones against ones, it's impossible to simulate real game action in practice. And this year, with the disjointed offseason, it might be even more obvious this weekend. So what things have the Irish been working on to perfect as they head into this weekend's game during practice?
You know, Jack, I think that's a great point, because I think this has been an abnormal year. Haven't had as much scrimmaging and as much just high tempo practices that you would normally have. And having an opener under our belt, getting used to the game speed and so forth. I think when we play this Saturday, you're going to see an even faster, cleaner, more efficient football team, just because it was almost like a preseason game in that, you know, you're doing a lot of things for the first time in an opener. So I would think you're going to see a very efficient game, you know, even more game ready team in week 2.
Bill, thank you so much. Not only am I looking forward to Saturday's game, but I'm really looking forward to our chats each week here on the Brian Kelly Show.
Jack, thanks very much.
Coming up, Coach Kelly will take over the airwaves to chat with Jalen Elliott, now of the Detroit Lions. This is the Brian Kelly Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com.
There's the man.
Coach, what's up?
How you doing, Jalen?
So, man, I've been good, you know, just trying to just continue to figure things out, man, and just, you know, continue to keep my head down and working.
Well, we do this show weekly, and I like to touch base with my former players, especially those guys like yourself that are so well respected by everybody that's followed Notre Dame football because of, you know, not only what you did on the field as a captain, but all the work you did in the community and all the people that you touched. If there was one thing that prepared you the best in terms of your time here at Notre Dame for, you know, the NFL and what is essentially your job, right? I mean, what would you think that would be that Notre Dame best prepared you for?
I think it's funny because, you know, just with all the great connections that we made, you know, you would think it would be that, just learning how to talk and interact with different people and try to learn different groups. But the one thing that I think was so big for us, especially in my junior and senior year, was you guys kind of giving the reins to us and allowing us to figure out how to lead the guys. Yeah. I think that sometimes goes unnoticed, but it was something that really helped us kind of create our personalities, the way we would lead, and kind of helping us to find our role when we got into different situations. And so just being able to kind of understand that, okay, I'm a vocal leader, but when I get here, I'm back at the bottom. I'm a rookie again. So what are ways that I can still lead? What are ways that I tried to do that at Notre Dame that you guys allowed me to do that? How did you guys allow me to do that? And what are ways I can continue to do so. So I think that was big for me, just having that leniency from you guys to allow us to lead.
How about working with Coach Patricia? I know him pretty good. It seems to me that he'd be a great guy to have as a head coach, and especially someone that has great knowledge of the defense.
Man, unbelievable guy. And even more than the football, like everybody knows he has the football. He's a great person.
Yeah.
Unbelievable person. And, you know, he rides or dies with his team. And so that's something that we really appreciate, especially in times like this. I mean, you know, you've been a part of all the movements that are going on. I haven't been able to reach out to you, but really appreciate you doing that, and just the whole staff, you know, getting on board with that. But, you know, he's been the same way. And that's been huge for us, especially as a young African-American male with all the things going on. Just to have that support and that backing from your head coach is just unbelievable. So, you know, great football mind, and also even better person. So,
yeah, well, that's great to know that, you know, you've got that kind of head coach going into the league, and that you got a couple of guys that you know, and Julian and Romeo. That must be a nice situation to have some familiar faces as well. Hopefully they allow you to come over and get a meal. You know, those two guys with those big bonus checks. I hope they're taking care of their brother.
I mean, you know, it's been tough, man. I kind of asked you a while back, like, man, hey, I can sleep on your couch, right? He was like, man, I don't know about this. No, I'm playing. But it's been great, man, just to have them boys in the locker room and just see some familiar faces. And, you know, family is family, you know, and we've been together for such a long time. So it was definitely cool to have them in there and just make the transition a little bit more smooth.
Good. Well, Jalen, we miss you, and we're huge fans. Everybody here can't wait to see you on a Sunday playing for and it's going to happen, playing for the Lions. And again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be on the show tonight and touching base with one of the most popular guys that we've had here at Notre Dame. So be safe, and tell those two knucklehead boys at the Ocoras that we said hello to, and we'll be in touch with them later. And by that time, they better have you taken care of, spreading the wealth around a little bit, because it looks like you need at least a couch.
I need something, man. But no, I'll let them know, Coach. I appreciate you having me on, and tell everybody I said hello.
I will, Jalen. Thanks again. Good to see you. Have a great night.
Yes, sir.
It's time now for Irish Intel, sponsored by TireRack.com. Coach, this is where we let you control the video and get into the X's and O's of why a play worked. First up this week, the gutsy fake punt you called on 4th and 8 on your own 21-yard line, trailing Duke 3-0 in the second quarter.
Well, we had noticed on the backside of their punt return, they squeezed down heavily, and you could see the entire Duke defense is inside the hash, which gave them no contain on the backside of their punt return. So it became a pretty easy read for Jay to get out the backside of the punt protection and kind of find his way to the first down marker.
Now let's take a look at Kyron Williams' 26-yard touchdown run on 4th and 1 at the 7:57 mark of the third quarter.
Yeah, so this is a downhill belly play, which is supposed to hit up in the B gap, but you can see that they've canceled out all the inside gaps. And again, the back has the option here. If everything is canceled, in other words, all the gaps have been canceled out, he can bounce this outside. And with no contain again, it bounces out on the perimeter. We get a great block by Javon McKinley. And again, Kyron is able to walk on into the end zone and come up with a big touchdown.
Our final play this week is a play I know brought a smile to your face, Coach, not just because it put the game away, but because of the young man who made the play and the fact that he has worked so hard during his 4 seasons at Notre Dame and has done everything you have ever asked him to do, including switching the side of the ball that he plays on.
Yeah, this is choice T option, and the T here is Avery. You can see it's man-to-man coverage all the way across the field. We bring the back into the backfield, and we're looking for Avery. He's going to stop when he gets halfway into the end zone, and he's going to come back to the field, come back to get the football. Ian's going to put it on his back shoulder, and it's going to be virtually impossible for the defender to get to the football. Just a really good throw, good read versus man-to-man coverage, and Avery makes a play. These are all one-on-ones, and somebody's got to make a 50-50 catch here, and Avery comes up with the football.
Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. All right, Game 2 of the 2020 season is coming up on Saturday against South Florida. The Bulls won their opener at home last Saturday night, 27-6 over the Citadel. What kind of challenges will South Florida pose for your team?
Well, first of all, speed on both sides of the ball. And they've got, I think, at least 15 or 16 transfers. And so they're still finding themselves. So looking at the Citadel game is really difficult because it's a triple option team. You don't get a lot of, scouting from that game. But if you just look at the athletes that they have on both sides of the ball, it's a team that's going to match up with all of our position groups. So again, what we have to do is get better as a team. If we play better, and we talked about this earlier in the week in terms of our defense has got to have a better attention to detail, better focus, and then certainly from an offensive standpoint, the experience that we got with all of our young players will be instrumental because we're going to have to obviously play with more consistency from the offensive standpoint.
Every year we talk about the cliche, and I think it's a cliche because it's usually true, that a team makes its most improvement between game 1 and game 2. This year, with the disjointedness of the off season and the limited preparation as compared to a normal year, do you expect to see even more progress since the first game?
Well, I think so. I mean, look, we could not duplicate the kind of physicality or speed that we saw last week against Duke. You just can't do it in a camp setting. You're really concerned about the potential on-field issues that you could have during COVID. So, you're always erring on the side of caution. And, in this past game that we played, it's the only time that we got that kind of physicality and speed. And so that gave us a great sense of what to expect, moving forward. So that for me is invaluable. And that will be a great tool for us moving forward.
Ryan, thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it.
That will do it, folks, for this edition of the Brian Kelly Show. Coach and I will return next week at this time to update you on all things Irish football. Until then, for Coach Kelly, I'm Jack Nolan. Thanks for listening. And as always, go Irish.